Welcome to Throwback Thursday. This is when I grab myself some beanie weenies, my hobo knife, and I sit down and watch one of those scenes from an old video that you may have forgot about. Come and join me. Should be a good time. Welcome to another Throwback Thursday. What we have here is the Myerchin W100 offshore system. It's a combination fixed blade rigging knife and marlin spike, all kept in a single leather sheath. A lot of fixed blade rigging knives are set up like this with a fixed blade knife and a marlin spike in one sheath. And it does make sense for anybody who is, using a nautical knife. The fixed blade knife makes a lot more sense than the folding knife. And you will often see some kind of offshore system set up like this with the knife, the marlin spike, sometimes also with a pair of pliers, and sometimes even with a hammer, all in one pouch. I saw, and basically, how can I put this? When I started collecting marlin spike knives, the folding knives, I started because of this knife here, the Rough Rider white smooth bone marlin spike knife. This is the very first marlin spike knife I picked up. And that is where my fascination with marlin spike knives began. That led me to picking up other Rough Rider marlin spike knives, and then just looking on eBay for anything that said marlin spike knife. I ended up grabbing Camillus knives, looking at British Army knives and all sorts of stuff. But this is where it started. And as I was doing all that, it was like, I really need to get a fixed blade. Now, it became very apparent to me when I started looking for these on eBay. I had three options. I could buy a crappy used one, I could buy a fairly decent used one, or I could buy a new one. And the thing is the price between a crappy rigging knife, a fixed blade rigging knife, and a new rigging knife was probably like double. But the price between a good used rigging knife and a new rigging knife, they were like within $5 or $10 of each other. So the obvious choice was just go ahead and buy new. And so that's what I did. Now, this is what I ended up with. You've got the leather sheath, the rope knife, and the marlin spike. And you see the company here, Myerchin, tested at sea. And I'm betting a lot of you guys out there have never heard of the company unless you watch the channel a little bit. And basically, unless you are, someone who does a lot of sailing, or if you're like in the Merchant Marines or in the Coast Guard, you may have never heard of the company. And that's because Myerchin specializes in nautical knives. It's not one of these companies like West Marine or Tello or these other companies that are larger companies that make all sorts of gear for sailing. Myerchin is not that way. Myerchin makes knives. That's what they do. It's a company that makes nautical knives, both fixed blade and folding knives. And they have recently branched out, and they're also making what they refer to as galley knives, which are basically kitchen knives to be used on board sailing vessels and such, or also in other areas on a ship. Myerchin has had contracts with the U.S. Coast Guard. They do have competitors, obviously, because, other companies also still make rigging knives, such as this, fixed blade rigging knives. But what we have here is the one I chose at the time, and I'm still very happy with the one I picked up. And I'll tell you right now, one of the reasons I did pick it up, and I have to admit it, was because of the whale on it. And also I had picked up the P300 sailing tool, and I was really impressed with it. So I felt confident when I was picking up the knife. But let's go ahead and take a look at the knife now, because that's really why you're here, not to listen to me talk about Myerchin. You should have seen the original video. Man, did it ever suck. Any case, what you have is a knife that is approximately, I think, what, 9 inches long, I think, overall. Yeah, not even. 8.5 inches, maybe 8 3/4 inches. Yeah, 8 3/4 inches long. You've got a cutting edge on the blade that is right at 4 inches, just under 4 inches. Overall length of the blade, as you can see here, is also just over 4 inches. You have a built-in shackle key into the blade. Full tang construction going on through here. Got Bubinga wood handles on here. Now, Bubinga wood is an interesting wood. It is basically impervious to rot. It's impervious to insects and so on and so forth. And that's why it's a really good wood for knives that are used around salt water or even just fresh water. It is somewhat of an oily wood, but it is very much a easy wood to grip onto. And, you know, the handle here is really well shaped. It's just a really thought out handle, the way they've done all this. Notice how it smooths out in the front here. So when you transition from handle to blade to grab onto there, there's no funny, really big bump there or anything. You can just drop right down onto it. So that works out really well. Got a nice taper in the back there. Good finger groove going on there, so you can get a good grip on there. Got some jimping going on here. Now, originally, the first generation, this is a second generation Myerchin knife. The first generation knives had 440C stainless steel in it. But what they have done with the second generation is they switched over to, as you can see there, it's just called Pro Marine Stainless. It is essentially, in the longer phrase, it usually is listed as German Pro Marine. Now, according to the Myerchin literature, it is equivalent to 440C. I do know that it holds an edge pretty well, it cuts pretty well, and obviously it's pretty well super stainless. But in any case, what I wanted to show you is the shackle key here does work. Let me get the shackle tightened up a bit in the blade. And that was something I was worried about when I first saw it, that, you know, you got that blade there, a sharp instrument, and you're going to be putting it close to the rope. And if you see right there, you could probably cut into the line with it, you know, accidentally cut into a line with it, which would be problematic. Also, the fear is that you could also break the spine of the knife. I don't think you're going to break the spine of the knife. I think it's something that you use if it's an emergency, and that's about it. If you notice, just the fine edge, it is a little bit of a curve on it. Not much, but a little bit. But it is basically a sheepfoot blade on the knife. Obviously not pointy at the front. I guess you could stab if you wanted to, but you would have to be coming in at very much an angle in order for you to stab with it, you know, to actually break skin or something like that. It is very much a safe front on the blade. And you can see the swell there, the nice palm swell. You can also see that the wood covers are held on by torque screws, so you can loosen those torque screws and remove the wood handle if need be for cleaning purposes. Really heavy-duty leather sheath, as you can see there. Nice belt loop going on, nicely riveted. You do have a hole punched in the leather here. I'm assuming that is so you could actually attach a lanyard to this too, or so that you could hook it up and hang it from somewhere. Knife goes in nice and tight. It's not going to fall out, but then you're wearing it vertical, so it wouldn't be falling out anyway. As for the marlin spike, it goes in there really nice and tight too. And I really do like the Marlin spike. It's nice and heavy. You've got a shackle key on the top. This one I feel much more safe using to break a shackle if you need to, because, well, you're not going to cut into a line with this one. There's no sharp edge on this. So that's pretty cool. So this one makes a lot more sense than the one in the blade. And you see the nice tip here. Not sharp at all, but because you've got that bend in there, it just goes into the hand so nicely. So it's really easy to untie knots with this and pick line and stuff. So I really do like the way Myerchin shapes its Marlin spikes. It's got a nice bend to it, and it fits really well. Got the whale on the sheath there. Spike goes in nice and tight. It's not going to come out. As you can tell here, it did come with a lanyard hole. I added this lanyard later. I saw the cord at a hardware store, and I said, man, that looks perfect for this knife. The white cord with the little blue stitching in there just looked really good. And you notice it is very much a simple lanyard, but it's a useful lanyard because you can get it on the handle here, slip a finger to her in here, and tie the knife to your hand so that if you're up in the lines or something, come on, if you're up in the lines, the knife isn't going to fall. You're not going to accidentally slip up on the blade, things of that nature. You can open your hands and grab things if you need to while still holding on to the knife. Or you can just adjust it and use it the regular way, like most people carry a lanyard. And again, let go of the knife, let it drop. Your hand is free. Of course, now you got the blade kind of dangling around. Either way, you've got a lanyard hole for it, so you can attach a lanyard to it and not lose it. You could attach a longer lanyard to it also. I don't know, just a really nice knife. I'm sure there's people out there in the land of maritime sailors and everything else that know a lot more about using these knives than I do, because, well, I'm not somebody who's out there sailing and everything. I'm just the casual observer, and it was one of those knives that I just really needed to have in the collection, and I think I picked a good one. But when I posted the original video, there was some controversy over this, because at the time, people weren't sure where the knife was made. And a lot of people assumed it was made in China, and oh my God, it's made in China. Because, well, for the longest time, Myerchin knives were made in Japan. And the second generation knives, if you look at it, nowhere on it does it say where it is made. And I do believe they are probably made in China. I don't think they're made in Japan anymore, but even on the back of the box, it does not say where they're made. All you have is Myerchin's lifetime guarantee that the knife is not going to fail you. And as long as you go and register it, and every knife is serial numbered. As you see here, this is 704. That's the number on this knife. This is the 00704. If something goes wrong with this, if it breaks, anything like that, I send it to Myerchin. And as long as the damage that was done was from just normal wear and tear and use, they'll replace it. So you've got that going for it. So they stand by their material regardless of where it was made. So, and that's something pretty cool about Myerchin as well. And I think that's why they remain a very popular knife, even though you don't know exactly where they're being made at. And, you know, it's one of those things, I got to tell you, this knife is solid. It is really well made. I do use it, even though it does not look like it's been used a lot. I have used it for cutting up cardboard. I have used it for cutting up meat. I've used it for cutting line. I've cut quite a bit of line with this because it just really works really well, and it holds up really well. So it's a really good knife. So is that if I were to ever take up sailing in my second childhood, I would be very happy to be using this knife. And I got a feeling a lot of other people would say, hey, that's a good one to choose. But I don't know. There are sailors out there who know more about them than I do. You can let me know if I made the right choice or not with the Myerchin W100. This has been another Throwback Thursday with Knife Chats with Tobias. Hope you enjoyed it, and don't forget to tell your friends. We'll see you again soon.